Hi everyone. We're here today with Chad Hutchison, and he is the manager at National Fitness Center here in Morristown. And Chad has a really interesting testimony of the history of his life and his relationship with the Lord and how he came to be where he is now. And I'm pretty sure somehow it's all going to tie into fitness, right?
Yeah.
At some point. Okay. All right. So go ahead, Chad. Go ahead.
So Chad Hutchison, born and raised Knoxville, Tennessee, and so grew up athlete, and from the time I was a baby, my aunt and uncle picked me up, take me to church just about every Sunday, and so really for about the first 16 years of my life, I was involved in the church and was down there and youth groups and stuff like that, and at the age of 16, I really started trying to venture out on my own and doing my own things, and found myself with a new set of friends and experimenting with some recreational activities, some drugs, some drinking, and a bunch of different stuff. And so, left the church at about 16, came back at around 18 years old, and over the first 18 years of my life, I was baptized 3 times, and so always felt like God had a calling on my life, but was baptized and always believed. We'll say that, and so I always believed that the Bible was true and that Jesus was the Son of God, and always had that faith. And so, but at the age of 19, I ventured out and really just ran away from God, ran away from the church, and everything. And so, really started drinking and partying heavily, and in the nightclub scene and everything. And so, at the age of 21, I ended up at Baptist Hospital. I was in there for 22 days, and never, the doctors never came to a conclusion about what was wrong. And so, of course, I knew that the Lord was trying to get my attention. He knew that I was running hard and running fast, and so again, just really felt him calling me. Unfortunately, I'm a very stubborn person, and so probably ran even harder after that. And about a year and a half later, I was leaving the bar, just dropped my best friend's brother off, was just a couple minutes from home, and ended up in a car wreck. And so I was life flighted from the accident to UT Hospital. Ended up being at UT for 16 days. I had ended up having 2 spinal fusions, broke my back, broke my neck, and really was not only blessed to be alive, based on the information that came back from the wreck, but even after having the surgeries and everything, 6 months later, the doctor told me I could resume any activities that I wanted. If I wanted to go back and play football, I could do those things, and really, it's really just a miracle that I've been able to heal so well, and so, but again, like I told you earlier, I'm stubborn.
Yep.
And so my head is extremely hard and thick, and I ran even harder
after
this time.
Wow.
Even after my car wreck, I ran even harder and even further, and really got involved in drug use and so it wasn't just alcohol. Now it was drugs involved, and so I ran for about the next 3 years, and so that took me along lots of paths and lots of experiences. I found myself even for the last year homeless, and so homeless meaning I did not have a dedicated place that I would stay. I mean, sometimes I was living in my truck, sometimes I was camping out on a friend's couch, and so but never had a place that was really mine. And so
was that because of the drugs?
It was.
Spending the money for drugs?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, I had gone through a 30-day outpatient program, failed that, got kicked out of the house, and so I was just kind of on my own, at that point, and really, my priorities really were skewed. I wanted to really party and have fun versus having a life that was worth living.
Yeah.
And so, and I really didn't care about much of anything else. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I remember, one night, after a 3-day binge where I was up for 3 consecutive days and partying and and everything. So went to bed. I was in an apartment in South Knoxville, and I woke up the next day, and it was the first time in years that I had a sober mind. And so I woke up sober in August of 2004, and by the Lord's grace and the Lord's doing, I've been sober ever since. And so I keep coming back to the fact that the Lord did for me what I could not do for myself at that point in my life. And so and so that day I got up, I went out and got a paper, because that's how we found jobs back then, and I started looking through the classifieds and jobs. I'd always been involved in customer service and involved in sales and loved sports and everything. So I applied for just a membership consultant position at a health club in Knoxville, and 3 weeks later I was got a call. I was living in my truck, and got a call that they wanted to bring me on, and so I started with the Course Health Clubs in West Knoxville, and September 15th of 2004 was my first day.
Wow.
And I've been in the industry since then, and so over the next year, I worked in the industry. I learned the industry, and in July of 2005, there was a member at our West Knoxville club had invited me to come to church with her, and so I accepted the invitation, and I really only accepted it because the church she went to, one of my best friends, her and her family went there, and her family was so influential in my life, and so they were my family.
Gotcha.
And they had invested so much time whenever I was just a little child in my life, and I wanted to see I wanted to see them.
Yeah.
And so
That's great.
so I went, and I remember sitting in the pew and hearing the message, and really only went because I wanted to see my family, and I remember God speaking directly to me, and the words in my heart were, "This is your last chance." And so, I knew that God had been calling me over the years, and I knew that, at that moment, I had to make a decision.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, the friend that invited me, I said, "Man, I got to get it right this time. I need to speak to the pastor." So she introduced me to the pastor, and we set up a time to speak. I remember walking into his office on that day, and one of the questions he asked is, have you ever been saved? And so that day I was like, yeah, I've been baptized 3 times. and so
funny, not funny.
No, understood. And so that day, we talked about several things, and he sent me home with a book and some tapes and everything, to do some studying, and one of the books that he gave me was a 40-day devotional by Dr. Gregory Frizzell called Returning to Holiness. And so, so here I am, July 2005, hadn't been in church in, at this point, 7 years, and I'm sitting on my couch, and just kind of, I didn't have to be at work till later in, early afternoon. So I'd get up and I'd spend, an hour or so and just kind of read and everything, and just really just trying to take it all in. And I'm starting through this book, and it's a 40-day journey, and really dealing with sin. And so, sin separates us from a righteous and holy God. And so, I'm reading through this, and I come to a question, and the question is, if you died today, do you know where you would spend eternity? And so, I had to answer no, that I didn't know at that point in my life how I would spend eternity. And so it said, well, flip back here and, go through these passages. And so this was on August the 19th, 2005. And so August 19th, 2005, based on, what I was reading and the conviction in my heart, I decided that day to give my life to the Lord. And so, for me now, it was turning from believing to surrendering.
There's a big difference.
And so, like I said earlier, I grew up in church. I believed that Jesus was the Son of God. I believed that that God created the heavens and the earth, and I believed the Bible, but I never had a relationship. And so on that day, I went from believing to trusting and having a relationship with the Lord, and so over the next next little bit, really just got involved in the church and started serving in the church, and was in the living Christmas tree, and just really just started serving. And so I remember, a few months later, we're at Thompson Bowling Arena, living Christmas tree, and my friend I told you about earlier, she was pregnant at the time, and so I was walking out to the car with her. I was going to carry some stuff, and I said, Lana, man, I feel kind of like you know, that I'm never really going to find anybody to spend my life with and all this stuff. And so we just, you know, we started talking and you know, it was just kind of left it at that. And about a month and a half later, you know, the Lord introduced me to my wife through a blind date. And so there were some members of the gym that that saw me at church and started poking and asking questions and trying to get me and my now wife set up. And after lots of no's on her behalf, she finally decided that, you know, she wanted to go out one night, and so we went out, and that was and so that was January 21st of 2006. We went out on our first date, and so you know, we got engaged in August of that year. Got married the following April of 2007, and so, you know, as far as my testimony in the fitness industry, the Lord has used this fitness industry to do lots of things in my life. One, you know, He brought salvation.
Yeah.
You know,
Amen.
He brought me to this industry, and through the people that I've got to meet and interact, He's brought salvation. He brought my wife into my life, obviously, and we now have 2 kids who are 11 and 13, and so there's been lots of blessings, and so, you know, but, you know, for me, I keep looking at my life and the word grace, undeserved favor, and that's all I see.
Yeah.
You know, because I can still picture that apartment in South Knoxville. I can still picture vividly, you know, the experiences and that day, and just waking up and being sober-minded for the first time in years,
Right.
and just how that felt, and that was actually one of my prayers after I got saved, is that the Lord would never let me forget where He brought me from, because I never wanted to go back.
Right.
You know, and so from, you know, from that time, you know, a year and a half later in the industry, you know, I was blessed to manage our South Knoxville club. I was there for 5 years, and it was neat because I was a block and a half away from my church. And so almost daily I got to have church, and I was able to form so many really good relationships there, and everything. And so and then in April of 2011, I was asked by the company to come to Morristown and manage this facility. And initially, I was saying no.
Wow.
And so through prayer and through conversation with my wife and just lots of stuff, the Lord just laid it in our hearts that this is where He wanted me to be. And you know, and it was tough. I mean, you know, at that point, Drew, our youngest, was 6 months old. My wife, you know, the Lord laid us on our hearts that she would stay at home and raise the kids, and now homeschools, and you know, so at home we had a 2.5 and a 6-month-old babies. And I'm commuting from Knoxville, and so, you know, I'm gone 12, 13 hours a day.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And so
On both of you.
yeah, and it was tough, and you know, but always felt like this is where the Lord wanted us to be. And so after about 3.5 years of commuting, I remember it was a January, it's dark, I was driving home at 8 o'clock at night. And so, and the Lord just really started prompting me that, hey, we need to maybe look at moving. And, you know, I'd had so many dynamic discussions with members up here, and, you know, people would ask, you know, where do you go to church? And so we went to church in Knoxville. And so, you know, if somebody was looking for a church, I could never say, come with me.
Right. That's powerful.
It was always, hey,
That's huge.
I know this person, and I know that you'll get taught scripture here and here, but I couldn't ever just say, hey, this is where we go, why don't you come? I mean, I could, but we're an hour and a half away. Right. You know, and so we finally decided to take the plunge and moved up here, and, you know, purchased a property in July of 2014. Okay, you know, I'm a planner. I like to shop and make moves and kind of look at everything. And, you know, so we drove around one Saturday, and we looked at 13 properties.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot.
That I found online, and just drove around, and the kids were tired, my wife was tired, and there was one more property left, and was online just looked like a tremendous deal. Everybody's like, let's go home. I was like, we got to look at it. There's one more, and as I'm looking, you know, it's kind of comical to me now, but I didn't want to live in Morristown. Yeah. I'm a private person. I like my privacy, and I didn't want to go to Walmart and see everybody. And so I'm from Knoxville, so, you know, I could go hide in Knoxville. Yeah. You know, it's pretty easy to do. Can't really do that in Morristown. And so this property it's 8 minutes from the gym here, and so we pull in, and you know, I'm walking around, and, you know, and then I hear, hey, Chad, and the next door neighbors are members of the club, and so and so here we are in the middle of Morristown, not my comfort level, but we fell in love with the house, and the Lord provided, and so we ended up moving up here, and finally put roots in September of 2014, and it's home. And it's home, and we've spent about the next year we went to a couple of churches, and finally, you know, the Lord called us to Manly Baptist Church, and we've been there ever since. And so we, you know, in there we've served in many capacities, and we've taught kindergarten, Sunday school, and you know, for several years, and we've helped with a lot of the kids programming and everything. And so, you know, we are thankful for what the Lord has done, and will continue to do. And you know, but anyway, that's my story.
It's so awesome. And you know what? It's like the one thing that stood out to me is, well, there were several things that stood out, but the first thing that I want to say is how quickly God moved from that day you woke up sober. Yeah. He moved quickly in your life. Yeah. I mean, a matter of just a couple years. Yeah. He turned everything that you probably never ever thought you could change. He turned it around and just totally transformed your whole living situation, your life, and then brought you your family. I mean, and just everything. And, you know, how many people do you think that walk through your door every day in here who feel like they have been where you are, or were where you were, or are living where you were, and has anybody, like when they walk through the door and you see them walk by and you're in there doing because you're in the management side of it, and and it's like, and you're in there in your office, and your ears just perk up, the Holy Spirit speak to you and just say,
I've had lots of dynamic conversations over the years, and there's been people that have been sitting in front of me looking to become healthier, and they've had the same surgeries I've had.
Yeah.
And I see that from both sides. I see it from the grace side.
Yeah.
Because they're struggling.
Right.
And here I am, and 6 months after my surgery, 8 months after my surgery, the doctor says you can go play football again.
That's crazy.
And so I see the grace. It's really from the position that I put myself in, definitely should have been and could have been drastically different. So I'm so thankful to the Lord that I'm not having the complications that some of these people have. But at the same time, I try to share hope that through exercise and staying active, that their life and their situation can and will become better. So I like to use those situations to really just try to be an encouragement. And
that's what most people need. I mean, it's like, when you got to admit though, when we make that decision, because I've done it too, when you make that decision that you're going to go out here and you're going to do this, and that's in the past, and even though it's still there, but it's like you just are preoccupied over here. It's like the apple caught your eye. And it's so crazy. But it's like the most amazing thing to me about God and how He works is that from the moment you were born, He knew every aspect of your life and where we are at this moment. That He's the only one that knows where you're going to be in the next 5 minutes, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, 20. He is the only one that knows that. And the calling that, every one of us were made for a purpose.
Amen.
And, and it's like, and I get tickled sometimes, you're not going to try and pedal a bicycle on water, are you? Because it's not how it was designed.
Yeah.
And so when we start off in a direction that we weren't made for, whether it's good, a lot of people get busy serving in ministry, but that's not, they're comfortable there, they're doing it, but that's not necessarily what they were made for.
Yeah.
And so it's like, those kinds of corrections and movements and stuff, but God just categorically, just kind of step by step brought you through. It's like, it's an amazing story, Chad, your life.
Well, I appreciate that. It is, again, I say it all the time. I mean, the Lord did for me what I could not do for myself.
Amen,
And so, kind of hitting on what you said earlier, God is an eternal God.
Yes.
And so, I and we as a human population, we are narrow-minded people, and we're like the horse that's running with the blinders on.
Yeah.
We can only see straight in front of us, right?
Yeah.
So, and what's behind us.
Yeah.
And so what's behind us holds us back, and we're a lot of times fearful as we step forward. But God is eternal, and so He saw me, and He saw you, and He saw anybody else.
Yeah.
Even before we were formed in our mother's womb.
Exactly. Yes.
He had a plan for us.
Yes.
And His plan was eternal.
Yeah.
And so, we are placed here in this moment of time, not by accident, but by eternal purpose. And
I think it's great that you recognize that, because that's how I recognize these moments too.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. I struggled so hard doing this
Yeah.
again. I used to do it years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and you're the first one that I've done in this, and it's like, and I really struggled with it because I didn't think, okay, I just
Yeah.
couldn't wrap my head around doing it again,
Yeah.
I guess. And even though I knew in my heart that this is what I'm supposed to do, is get people's stories out there,
Yeah.
you know, and share and what God has done for them in their life. Because I think the saddest part about life that I can think of is that when a person feels like they're the only one,
Mm-hmm.
they're the only one who knows where they are. No one else could possibly understand it.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is that we're surrounded by people who have walked in our shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, your ministry to a kindergartner in church ministry, or your ministry to a young man out here, or even a father out here.
Yeah.
They may walk in the door. I call it Tiffany boxes. You know, you get a gift from Tiffany, it comes in this box, and you know there's something like beautiful on the inside. But if you were to unwrap my Tiffany box, there's a bunch of broken stuff inside.
Mm-hmm.
And we oftentimes feel like that we have to hide that brokenness. But when we open up and we let the Lord use that brokenness to share and give others hope, I mean, that's what is so amazing to me. And I saw that when I was working in fitness, and I had women, and it's like they would come in and I got to know them intimately and with purpose. And it was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea you had all this going on in your life.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's the things that happen. But you know what? The other thing about it too is it's no mistake that I believe that I know so many people that work in the fitness profession that have a calling of ministry in their life, on their life.
Yeah.
And, you know, God made us three, you know, it's
Mm-hmm.
like we've got mind, we've got our body, our spirit, you know,
Yeah.
and it's like we, this physical body is what the Holy Spirit lives in. He dwells within us.
Correct.
And there's two things. It's like we're his hands and feet,
Mm-hmm.
and his mouth, his ears.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're the spokesperson, and it's like, and then the other thing is I just forgot what I was gonna say. But there were two things. But you know, it's like we're the hands and feet of Jesus, and if we're not sharing our stories, and because you know, how are the others gonna know?
Yeah.
What God can do? Because you weren't gonna pick up a Bible when you were living in that life.
No.
What was the last thing?
No. It took one person inviting me.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, I selfishly went for other reasons.
Hey.
But that was how God got me back.
But that was exactly.
You know,
he used
that's
that.
how God used that to put me in a seat, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had an appointment.
Yes, you did.
To hear a message.
Yep.
Right, and God spoke.
Amen.
But even at that moment, I had a choice to make.
Yeah.
You know, I could have went the other direction.
Right.
Okay, and I could have hardened my heart, and I could have, whether he meant that I would never have the opportunity for salvation again, right, or that I would physically pass away,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you know, and be back in the lifestyle that I was. I'm not sure, but I know for a fact that he called me and said that this is your last chance. And
Don't
so,
miss that.
you know, and so we all have that last chance, you know, and so we're all faced with decisions each and every day, you know, and so, you know, salvation may not have ever been on my plate again.
Right.
You know, I could have just hardened my heart so much and lived a long life.
Yeah. And been a good person even.
Been a good person, but being a good person doesn't get you into heaven. You know, it is only, you know, by the blood of Jesus.
That's right.
That is able to happen. And even then, you know, one of the verses and passages that I remember vividly is, even whenever Jesus crossed the sea and went to the demon-possessed man, okay, the demons recognized him.
Exactly.
They knew who he was. They believed and vocalized that he was the Son of God.
They knew, yeah.
So even in our belief, we can still be separated from God.
I know, isn't that? And I think there's a big.
And so that's where I was.
Yeah, you believe.
I believed, but I never surrendered.
Yeah.
And so that would be, I tried to do it 3 times. I believed and I was dunked.
You thought, yeah.
I was baptized.
Right.
And so in front of everybody.
Yeah.
At the age of 7, at the age of 13, and again at the age of 18.
Yeah.
And then, but I still had no relationship.
Yeah.
I had knowledge. I had head knowledge. I didn't have heart knowledge.
Yeah, the reality is that, Satan knows the Bible cover to cover.
Yeah.
He knows the Bible cover to cover.
He was with God.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting though, because it's like people do have that knowledge, but they don't have the relationship. I mean, they can quote scriptures left and right and pull them. Just they can say everything and make you think that they're okay.
Yeah.
But there's a separation there that they just don't get. And I gotta say, and I think you'll agree with me, because I never ever have I ever found anything as good as God at the bottom of the cocktail glass.
Never.
There's
I was
never.
always empty and I was always broken.
Yeah. And it's like, and that whole part of it is like, it is, I remember one time I was asked by someone to share testimony, and I had no idea what the pastor was going to speak on that day. And I just said that, accepting Christ as your Savior is like addiction in reverse. It is like there's an empty hole, and God comes in and he fills up that hole. And when you think it can't get any more full, he puts more in.
Yeah.
And you're just overflowing with joy. Whereas with other addictions, there's a little hole, and every time you feel it, the hole gets bigger and bigger, and the emptiness expands.
Yeah.
So it's like if you've got that hole in your life, that emptiness in your life, God's the only way, and he's the only one that can fill that up.
Amen.
He is the only one that can fill that up. And I think that's such a powerful message, and hopefully, this is going to fall on God's going to use it. God's going to use it. He gives people hope and encouragement, and there may be even if there's just one person that hears a story of someone's life and their testimony, that one person hears it.
Well, I hope so. I've always said, I would never want anybody to go through what I've gone through.
Right.
But I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah.
Because God's given me a story.
Yes.
That not everybody has.
And he knew it.
And he knew it.
He knew you were going to walk through it.
And he promises that the things that we go through will not be in vain.
Right.
If they're for him.
Yeah. At the time, it wasn't for him.
It was definitely not for him.
But
not
like
even on the radar.
He knew it. He knew you were going to go through all that, and he also knew that it was going to lead you to this moment, and he knows where it's going to take you tomorrow and the next day and the next day.
Yeah.
So that's really awesome. Thank you.
As long as I continue to surrender.
That's right. And that's the key.
There you go.
That's the key.
So, that was the first step.
Yeah, you have to surrender. And it's like, and I'm stubborn and bullheaded too. So, it's like I could think of a million reasons to tell him, but God, so,
understood.
Yeah, so, but it's really awesome. Is there anything else? One last word you might want to say to somebody?
Trust God. He's got your back better than your best friend, better than anybody that you've ever known. There's been times in my life that even as a new believer, that I didn't know how I would make ends meet, financially, whatever it was. And God made a way. And He will always make a way if you are surrendering it to Him.
Yeah.
And so you can't do it on your own. We will fall flat on our face every single time under our own power.
Yes.
So, but with God, He is bigger and stronger than anything that you will ever face in your life. Surrender to Him, and the peace of the Lord will last forever.
Amen. Powerful.